breaking down what was going on the House floor and helping expose some of the games that get played on the Capitol. And it hasn't stopped. Senate File 1, the Senate File version, is up on the House floor, or the Senate floor tomorrow. So that's what I'm talking about tonight on Behind the Smokescreen. All right, so I've been listening to a lot of conservative media, as I'm one to do, and you probably are too, and I'm hearing all sorts of people pontificating about what's going on in St. Paul. How could the Democrats do this? Didn't the Democrats run on preserving and saving democracy? And now they're ramrodding everything through. And I've heard some people say, well, look, they're doing it because they don't want people to know the truth. You know, that they don't want you to actually watch these things go to committee. And maybe there's some truth to that. But tonight I want to talk about what I think is actually going on from my perspective as a former legislator that has been in St. Paul and has met these people and has seen firsthand the games that they play. And the longer you pay attention to these things, the more transparent these games become. So hopefully my perspective here is appreciated, because I do think it's fairly unique for a legislator or a former legislator to say, this is why these guys are full of crap. So I'll get into this thing a little bit right now. So let me catch everybody up, because odds are you know what happened in the House last week. But let me catch people up if you don't know what's going on. The Democrats have a 1-seat majority in our state Senate. And they have a, I believe it's 64. So they have a 6-person majority in the House. And of course, Governor Walz, the tyrant himself, somehow magically got reelected. And I'm going to tell you why, or at least one of the reasons why I think he got reelected, and how I think it explains what's going on in the legislature right now. So that passed the House floor last Thursday night, a week ago tonight. They had 4 hours of debate. Republicans offered mostly a bunch of worthless amendments. They should have just offered one amendment, life at conception, gotten a vote on that, and moved on. But instead, they chose to do things like, well, these abortions should be performed in licensed medical facilities. And to me, watching this, my translation is, so Peggy Scott, who offered that amendment, she's okay with abortion as long as it happens inside a licensed medical facility. So I couldn't help but scoff at some of these amendments that the Republicans tried to introduce. Absolutely foolish. So that's what happened in the past. Now what's going on tomorrow? Tomorrow, I think it's at 11 o'clock, maybe 10:30, but pretty early in the afternoon, the Senate is going to hear Senate File 1, the Senate version of the bill, right? And some of the basics here is the House passes a bill. If the Senate passes the same bill with the same language, it's going to go to the governor's desk. So tomorrow is the opportunity to kill this Senate File 1 bill, which, again, if you don't know, and I guess I haven't talked about it, it's unlimited abortion. Doesn't matter how old you are, no parental consent, doesn't matter late-term abortion, partial birth abortion, everything is on the table. It's the most radical bill, in my view, in the history of the state. And it would put us right in line with North Korea's of the world. Very, very radical stuff. So tomorrow, that's what's happening. And talking to some people that I still know in the Capitol, I want to talk about some of these things, because let's just lay the table. You have a 1-person majority in the state Senate. The Democrats have a 1-person majority. And I guarantee you there are 3, maybe 4 Democrat state senators who want nothing to do with this bill. They know it does not align with the values of their district. It doesn't align with what the voters' wishes are in their district. And part of me the other day thought, man, I'm kind of surprised that leadership is actually going to force their Democrat members to vote on this bill. And then it dawned on me, well, why am I so surprised by this? It's because the Republicans would never, ever, ever force a vote this extreme on an issue if they had a 1-person majority in the Senate. And we don't have to guess that would be true, because that's what the Republicans had under Paul Gazelka, a tiny, slim majority, 1 person even. And Paul Gazelka even came out and admitted it. He does it on the radio when he was still a Senate Majority Leader, that, well, if we can't all go together, we don't go at all. So I just had to initially call out this this stark contrast of what's going on between the two major parties in St. Paul. The Democrats, when they get their grips on power, by golly, they are going to ram it through. They're going to force the members of their caucus to vote on that stuff. That will happen tomorrow. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you can help stop it. But I love to compare that to these gutless, cowardly Republicans like Paul Gazelka, the current minority leader, Senator Mark Johnson. These guys have no backbone whatsoever. They would never, ever force these types of votes. Because think about it, when Senate Majority Leader, or the former Senate Majority Leader, Paul Gazelka, when he had that majority, did he force a vote and force his members to vote on, say, constitutional carry? Nope. Did he force a vote on, say, stand your ground? Nope. Did he force a vote to say, end the income tax? Like, there is a big movement happening right now to end income taxes. Did he force a vote to end income taxes? Absolutely not. So I have to call out that, because when are Republicans in the state of Minnesota going to learn that when you actually have the ability to advance legislation, you have the majority in a body, how about use it? How about that? Actually use it, because the Democrats are doing it. And for those of you out there that are thinking, well, you know, more politics is about compromise, and it's the art of compromise, and we all just have to work together. Do you think what the Democrats are doing right now in our legislature is compromising? It's not. Politics is the process that determines who rules who, or in other words, who has the ability to influence political change. That's what politics is. And Democrats in Washington, D.C., it's the same thing. There's no compromise happening. Now with Republicans taking the House back, hopefully I just hope for gridlock, quite honestly, down there. But you have to understand that's what politics is. So the people out there that think we just have to compromise, we just have to get along, that is not the intent of the people who wish to destroy your liberty. And I got to tell you this story, because this is just popping in my mind. Before the election, probably October, I had a constituent reach out, and I won't use his name here because he won't like that I shared this story. But he wanted to meet. And so I got together with him, and he said, look, I appreciate your stance. You know, you're just uncompromising, unbending. I appreciate that. But he said, and this guy claims he's a lifelong Republican. This is a direct quote. This guy told me, but eventually you have to make a deal with the devil. That meeting ended right there. There was nowhere to go. Like, that is not true. You do not have to make a deal with the devil. And that's the sort of mindset that so many conservatives out there have. And it's why we lose and lose and lose over and over and over, because they think, well, eventually I just have to just break down and do whatever the Democrats want me to do. And ultimately, why they do this, of course, to try to save their reelection. Like, that's it. And if there's one thing, if there's going to be a theme for this show, a theme for my last 2+ years, it's going to be, and has been, how do I say this? I hate wasting time. I absolutely hate wasting time. I don't want you to waste your time. So my theme is going to be, and has been, empowering the people of the state with the things that you need to know to actually be effective in politics. Like going to the bar and eating chicken wings and having 6 Miller Lights and complaining about Joe Biden. Well, waste of time. You did nothing. It feels good to commiserate and all kind of bitch. You didn't do anything. People need to actually do meaningful things. So that's what I'm going to consistently talk about. I'll give examples of what is meaningful, but it takes a backbone. So let me put it this way. If you're sick of spineless Republicans in the Capitol who refuse to fight for you, this sounds a little rough. Some people need to look in the mirror. Do you have a backbone to act and to fight? And I don't mean physically fighting. I always need to say this because I'm not talking about rolling up your sleeves. I'm talking about inflicting political pain on politicians who have lied to your face and have abandoned their principles. If you're not willing to do that, just step aside and let other people get involved. Or if you don't know how to do it, well, welcome to Behind the Smoke Screen, because that's what I'm going to talk about as often as I possibly can. So what else is on my little list here? Oh boy, I got a lot of this. Sorry, I'm breaking the the ice here. Okay, well, let's talk about this, since I just kind of talked about it. Whoa, why is the legislature going so fast? The way I teed this whole thing up. My opinion, and I've heard other people actually in the legislature say, well, they just don't even know the truth. Let me tell you what I think is a very hard fact that people need to know. The politicians in the Capitol do not give a shit about the truth. They don't care. They break their constitutional oath every single day at that Capitol. My first day on the floor, when I forced a vote to end the emergency powers, Speaker Hortman had literally just taken her constitutional oath, probably 3 minutes earlier. And she violated it right then and there. They do not care. And it's not a lack of information. Okay? Those of you out there, and I just talked to a legislator the other day who thinks he's going to present the compelling argument and get party leadership to change their ways. It ain't happening. It's not a lack of information. There are books on law and on constitutional law all through the state capitol. It's not a lack of information. It's not that they don't understand they're violating their oath. They don't care. And why don't they care? Let me tell you. Well, what they do care about is staying in office. They are addicted. It's like a drug. It's the best way to put it. It is like a drug. They get elected, and I think a lot of them start off with good intentions. A lot of Republicans will say, and maybe some Democrats, but I think a lot of them start off with good intentions to go build a better world. But as soon as they get elected, and I talked a lot about this right after the election, everybody is kissing their butts. Lobbyists, mayors, county commissioners. If you have the same party as the governor's kissing your butt. I've seen even Republicans, kind of getting friendly with the governor. Everybody is just wooing, and it goes right to their heads, like right to their heads. Heck, even before the election for a lot of people. The attention, they get to do speeches. I don't like giving speeches. I don't know if people know this. I don't, do not enjoy it. I don't like it. But these politicians love being the center of attention. So they get hooked, and they don't want to lose it. It defines who they are to their very core. And they're addicted, and they don't want to lose that special feeling. A lot of them have accomplished next to nothing in their lives, so they feel like now they are somebody. They're in a marble building, the opulence. People kissing their butt, politicians, important people kissing up to them. So they're hooked. So back to where I was going with that. What they care about and how to influence them and why I think they're doing what they're doing is I think they're moving so fast because they know people have short memories. Just look at what happened with the lockdowns. I think if the governor election was in November of 2021, Walz doesn't win. Walz doesn't win. Mayor Freiberg doesn't win. I think Democrats get annihilated in November of 2021. But they know that the 24/7 news cycle that just spins, they know people have a short memory. And I see it all the time. I have a lot of the same people email me and they're pissed off about a new issue every single day. And that sort of lack of focus is very, very harmful. It doesn't allow to get anything done, quite honestly. So I think they realize that people have a short attention span, a short memory. If they do this right out of the gates, by the time November 2024 comes around, and in the Senate, of course, it's a 4-year term, so they're not up for re-election until November 2026. So I think, this is my opinion, and I believe it to be right, that is why they're moving so fast. It's not that, maybe there's some truth that they don't want you to know all the information. Sure, I can believe some of that, but I think it's taking advantage of you and your short memory. So I implore you, just don't have a short memory. Don't let them forget about this. Don't wait until a month before the next election. I was just talking to somebody before coming live, and they're asking about, well, what do we do now? The election is so far away. And that's our runway. That is our runway. A plane doesn't go up to the end of the runway and then suddenly, get vertical. You use that runway. Use the runway in front of you right now. That's so incredibly, incredibly important. And so now how do you use that runway? Well, if you look at the big picture, and then I'm going to dive back into Senate File 1 and talk about how you can do some of these things. Big picture, all these guys care about staying in office. So I can tell you this for a fact because I saw it all the time. On any issue, pick your issue. An abortion, huge issue, right? Huge. Like there's a one-person majority in that state Senate. Things can be done. On any issue, all these guys are thinking about, and I guarantee you this, then they'll never admit it, okay? So if you ask someone, hey, is it true? They'll never admit this. So please recognize that. What they're going to do is they're going to say to themselves, who is a bigger political threat to their political ambitions? Is it the people of the state, the people they represent? Maybe it's people that they don't actually represent, but it's people who are pissed off about what they're doing at the Capitol, and they're willing to get engaged in their district. So you don't even have to live in their districts. There's ways you can get active within the district, even though you don't live there. So they're going to go, okay, are the people a bigger political threat to their deepest desire to just stay in office? Or is party leadership a bigger threat? And I would tell you, unfortunately, 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10 times, they are vastly more scared of party leadership than they are of you. That's the problem. So until people are prepared to do what it takes to instill more political fear in the hearts and minds of these scumbag politicians, you don't get the country back. You don't get your state back. And what I'm saying isn't all that hard. Like, that's the thing. This isn't hard work. Now, it can take a lot of work. It can be work that people don't want to do. I'll tell you a quick story. I met with a couple women during the governor race. This is, late 2021 probably. And I'll tell you, I'll just tell you. So I met at a Perkins in Chaska with 2 or 3 women and Scott Jensen. And I had never met Scott Jensen, so it was interesting to meet him. Nice enough guy, like most politicians. Nice. Backbone? Not so sure. And so Scott gets him, leaves, of course, because he's campaigning. He's got about 30 seconds. And this woman in front of me says, I believe in Scott Jensen. And I didn't believe in Scott Jensen at the time. And I don't know if I had reason to, have a deep faith in him, but obviously he'd be better than Walz. I did vote for him. She said, I believe in Scott Jensen, and I want to see him to be the next governor. So here, I'm bringing up the story because I'm giving you an example of the type of work that isn't hard, but it's important. And the beauty of it is not many people are willing to do it. So 0.1% of people can make a huge difference in politics if you're just willing to do the work. So she said, I believe in Scott Jensen. How can I help him? And I said, well, I guarantee if you reach out to him or his campaign staff and you tell them that you want to lead your BPOU, you want to be an organizer for him in the BPOU or at your House district or Senate district, whatever level she wants to take on. So I guarantee they will snatch you up in a heartbeat because, again, people aren't willing to do this work. And she said, what does that mean? I don't know. What does that entail? So I said, well, they'll have a list. I guarantee you they have a list of people in your district, and you call those people, and you organize them. You get them to go out to caucus, and you get them to say, or to be a delegate for the candidate of your choosing. The candidate she'd be volunteering for would have been Scott Jensen. And I say would have been volunteered for because I guess a little foreshadowing there. So she goes, okay, well, I mean, how many calls? I'm like, well, honestly, it takes a lot of work to get people to show up to caucus. It takes a ton of work. Everybody likes to complain about politics. When it's time to act, they're gone. Sorry, I'm a little jaded about that, but I want to stay positive because, again, the point is so few people are willing to do it. So you got to, you probably have a couple hundred people to call. You got to call them probably 2-3 times each. Keep a record of who's going to go, who's not going to go. You probably want to build some slates, figure out who supports your guy, and then hand out the slates to the caucus. And this is really inside the whole political, world. So if these are new terms to you, sorry. And so I would give her all this information, and she goes, okay, yeah, that we need to do all that. And she asked me, so do you know anybody who's willing to do all that? And I was like, no, I don't. And she said, well, I have kids and I have a job. I'm like, so does everybody else. So, I took 20, 30 minutes to explain this to her and try to coach her on how to be effective at organizing around somebody that she was passionate about. And at the end of it, she says, great. Who do you know that can do that? If I had to take a guess, there's probably 15 people in the state that put that much work into a campaign. And I'm sorry, that sounds a little pessimistic, but when I think of people, and I've got people in my mind that I know do this work, and 15 may be on the high side. And there's 6 million people in Minnesota. So I'm telling you this not to be, doom and gloom. I'm saying because, look, if you just show up, you can wield so much political influence, but you have to show up. That's if you don't show up, then you're never getting anything done. So that's what it takes, is actually instilling more political fear in the eyes of these politicians than party leadership does to them. So if you contrast my little story there to, what happens with party leadership? How come they're so powerful? Well, they're organized, and that's what I was coaching her in how to organize. Leadership is organized. They're motivated because they love their positions of power. So, they don't look at it as, I work and I've got a couple kids. I'd rather watch Netflix and, eat popcorn. They are motivated because they're part of the political class. They don't want to lose that position. So they're motivated, they're organized, they're funded, they raise a lot of money. They have lists with lots of people. So politicians, and I don't think you're going to hear many people who have served in office, I shouldn't say admitting it because I was the exception to this rule. I think my record shows it. They're not going to tell you this. They are scared to death of leadership. So what leadership does is they tell them, they go right to the pain point. I'm literally right to the pain point. You don't do what leadership says, they threaten you. They threaten to primary you. They threaten to pull money from your district so you can look like you're ineffective when you go back to talk to your constituents. They'll kick you out of caucus like they did to me. They will threaten your political ambitions because they know it works. So when I'm telling you, you need to be a political threat to these people, and I'm telling you, people have seen it. If you pay attention to politics for more than, a couple of years, if that, you see what happens with how leadership beats the snot out of these guys and beats them in place. So why on earth people are oftentimes not willing to deploy the same proven tactics, it's beyond me. So that is really the important thing. So if we apply this back to Senate File 1, and I'm going to hammer on this. In fact, quite honestly, I might get sick of doing these shows because I might get tired of repeating myself over and over and over, because I don't care what your issue is. If it's voter ID, if it's protecting the unborn, if it's the Second Amendment, people always ask me, well, how do I fight this battle? It's like, well, the answer is the same. You can interchange the issue. You find people who are like-minded. You organize. You find a way to fundraise. You can find an outside group that already has, like Minnesota gun rights. If you care about Second Amendment, hook up with those guys. If you can't donate your time, donate some money. These are the things that people can do, like-minded people, help raise money, and get politically active. Go door knocking, put signs in the ground. There's a win, but those are the basic things. And I start to laugh about this because this is where it gets really fun. Really, really fun. If I tell people, well, you're only limited by your imagination. So, and I'll probably eventually tell you some of my stories. Maybe I'll let some more time pass. But I've done some really fun things, and it works. I'll tell you this, I guess. No, I'll wait. I'm going to do a little teaser there because it's a little too soon. But you can get very, very creative with it and have a lot of fun. So back to Senate File 1, what you can do is reach out to these 3 or 4 state senators. There's one, Grant Housechild, up in, I believe it's Cook County. There is a state senator, a Democrat state senator, over in the Moorhead area, and I'm drawing a blank on the name. What is that? Kupik. What a weird name. Kupik, I guess. Senator Kupik. So he's like the Moorhead area. There's Senator Putnam, I believe is what it is. Did I get that right? All right, I got people helping me out over there. Good. And then there's, my favorite, or least favorite, I should say, Judy Seeberger. Now, if you're looking to deploy your ire to anybody, like if you just wanted to take it all out on somebody, there is one person who deserves it. It is the former state representative out of the, I believe, was it Stillwater area? Hastings, I want to say. Yeah, Hastings. Tony Jurgens. I think he was in there 4 or 6 years, several weeks, maybe it was even like 10 days before the election. What does this guy do? And let me set the table a little more, because he ran for state senate. That's what they want to do, right? Stay in office or climb the ladder. Go to that next rung. They all think they can be president. I guarantee you, every single one down there thinks they're going to be president someday, when really they're private sector dropouts. They're mostly failures in life. So what does he want to do? He's going to climb the ladder and run for state senate. Well, he didn't realize he was up against an organized candidate that ended up being very well organized and getting the endorsement. So poor old Tony Jurgens was all butthurt that he didn't get the endorsement, so he challenges him in a primary against the endorsed candidate. He gets smoked in the primary, and these guys, it's in their head. Their egos are the size of this room. So what does he do? Well, he doesn't want to let this guy who beat him win. So a week or two before the election, he endorses the former Republican, endorses Democrat candidate Judy Seeberger to be the state senator of his district. And she wins by like 300 votes, something like that. So if you want to deploy all your ire, your fury upon anybody politically, Tony Jurgens, Hastings, Minnesota, please let him have it, because what he did, the Democrats have that one-person majority. And he's the guy to blame. I'm convinced that 300 votes, especially when you do the math, right, it's just 150 people flipping their vote. So that is an issue. So those 4 senators again, and then I'll start to wrap this up. 4 senators: Grant Housechild, Senator Grant Housechild. I rarely call these guys senator or rep. I never did in the Capitol. They hated it. I'd see the Speaker of the House, Melissa Hortman, and just say, "What's up, Melissa?" And she wouldn't even say hi back. So I don't like using their title. Moorhead area, Putnick? Kupik? Okay, something like that. Moorhead, Kupnik, Picnic. I don't know. I think it's Senate District 4. All right, Senate District 4. So if you're in Senate District 4, the Moorhead area, reach out to that guy. Hell, even if you're not in the district. So I should emphasize this. I don't care if you live in these districts or not. Not at all. Call these people. Email these people. I would almost say, well, hell, I will say it. I will say it. I wouldn't even waste my time. My state senator is Eric Pratt. I'm not going to waste my time banging on Eric Pratt. Find these 4 sensitive state senators that I'm listing right now, whether they represent you or not, and politically hammer them for the next day. Because by this time, what do we got? 7:30? This time tomorrow night, 7:30, I bet that floor debate is over, and that bill either passes or it dies. And it will literally come down to how much political pressure the people across the state are willing to put on these 4 senators. Because, again, all 4 of these guys, I guarantee. And I wouldn't waste your time, emailing, who's some crazy whack job Metro Democrat senator? Ron Latz. Okay, thanks. Yeah, the peanut gallery helped me out again. Ron Latz. If Ron Latz is your state senator, don't waste your time. The guy's going to vote for this stuff. Like, the guy's a crazy anti-gun commie. Don't waste your time. Get a hold of Grant Housechild. Get a hold of Picnic or Putnick or whatever up in Moorhead. Get a hold of Putnam up in St. Cloud. And get a hold of Judy Seeberger. Please get a hold of Judy Seeberger. And while you're at it, send Tony Jurgens an email too and politically slap him around because he deserves it. So that's what you can do, because, again, who's going to instill more political fear? You have probably, I think they're hearing the bill at 11 o'clock. So what do we got here? It's 3.5 hours to 11. So we got 9. Oh, no, we got whatever. We have 7.5 fewer, 17 hours-ish. You got 17 hours to kill this bill. 17 hours to just politically hammer these guys and instill that political fear that the people have the power. You guys have the political power. There's 6 million of you. There's about 4 Democrats in the party leadership. You have to instill more fear in them for these next 17 hours than Democrat Party leaders at the Capitol instill. And it can be done. Please know it can be done. So with that, and I'll probably try to do, we'll see how long the floor action goes. I think Action for Liberty is going to do it live again. I'd love to get over there and be a part of that, if depending if it's going to go on. I've heard rumors that there's going to be like 100 amendments, but I've also heard that it might just be 3-4 hours. But let me throw this in real quick before I wrap this up, because I forgot about this. Going back to the cowardice of the Republicans. There is a state senator who's going to be introducing, hopefully he does it, a life of conception amendment during this debate tomorrow. And this person told the caucus, I'm going to do it. I told my constituents I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Well, guess what? Party leadership, Mark Johnson, minority leader Mark Johnson, told this state senator. He said, you better not. You know why? If you don't know why, then I guess you haven't been paying close enough attention to what I've been saying. Mark Johnson said, you better not, because we have some senators that are in very squishy districts, and they might not get reelected. They're in the minority, and they still refuse to man up and actually fight for their constituents. Because, again, all they're concerned of is, well, we might just lose a seat. The people deserve to know where their state senators, especially their Republican state senators, stand on an issue like life of conception. But party bosses want to kill it in the Republican caucus. Democrat leaders in the Senate caucus, they're forcing 4 sensitive Democrat senators to vote on abortion on demand. Like, the difference in leadership in the parties down there and their willingness to fight for the people that they represent it's black and white. It's astonishing. So that's what I've got. Hammer those guys for these next 17 hours. They deserve it. We can kill that bill if that happens. If you do nothing, don't bitch about it, because you didn't do anything. But if enough of us reach out to these guys, it can happen. And again, it doesn't matter if they represent you or not. So until next time, as I always say, if you want to be politically respected, if you want to be politically heard, you must be politically feared. Thank you.